Hi everybody, this is Sam. This is episode 47, the VictorPrep Vocab podcast. I'm going to start this episode with another quote, this one by a favourite poet of mine called Rainier Rilke. Perhaps all the dragons in our lives are princesses who are only waiting to see us act, just once, with beauty and courage. Perhaps everything that frightens us is, in its deepest essence, something helpless that wants our love. So, our last episode was episode 46. Let's quickly cover the words that we learned in that episode. Those were guileless. Guileless means to be innocent, to be genuine, open, maybe simple or childlike. Bifurcate. That means to divide into two branches or forks. Anodyne. That means a medicine that relieves pain, or in general, anything that makes you feel better or relieves your pain. And our final word from that episode was pariah. That means an outcast, someone who's undesirable, or a leper, maybe. So, our first new word, episode 47, is Ford. Ford, that's spelled F-O-R-D, just like the car. But that's where comparisons with car have to go, because Ford doesn't mean anything to do with the car. Ford is an interesting word because it's both a noun and an adjective. So let's start with the noun. A ford is a shallow place in a river or a stream where you could walk across it, or drive across it, or otherwise get across the river without too much trouble. So it sort of means if you've got a bigger river or some place that might be difficult to get across, a ford is a place where the river becomes more shallow, maybe less rough, and it's possible to get across it. Now, the verb to ford simply means to cross a river or stream at a shallow place. So those are the two meanings of the word ford. The noun ford, which means this shallow place in a river or stream, and the verb to ford, which means to cross a river or stream at a shallow or safer place. There aren't really many synonyms for these words because it's quite a specific word, but you could say a crossing place, or maybe a shallow place, or simply a crossing. A way of remembering this word might be, if you think of the word Ford and think of a Ford car, you could think of a ford as a place where you could drive a ford across a river, because in most places on a river, you can't drive a car across. Your car's just going to sink. But at a ford, the river might be shallow enough and safe enough so you could get a car across there. So maybe that's a way you can remember. And in terms of the verb to ford, some synonyms are cross or traverse. Our second word is commensurate. That's spelled C-O-M-M-E-N-S-U-R-A-T-E. Commensurate. Commensurate means corresponding in size or degree. It's an adjective. So the meaning of that is, let's think of an example first. So when you get a job, your salary is usually in proportion with your skills or your experience. So they're going to pay you according to how good they think you're going to be at the job. So you could say your salary is going to be commensurate with your skills and experience. So that means your salary will be corresponding to the size of your experience or skill. Another example would be if you saw a really big, strong boxer or fighter of some kind, and this guy or this girl is strong looking and muscular, you could say their punch is going to be commensurate with how strong they look. So they look really strong, they're going to have a really powerful punch. So commensurate with their strength. Some synonyms of commensurate are equivalent, equal, corresponding, proportionate, and proportional. Our third word is imprecation. Imprecation. That's spelled I-M-P-R-E-C-A-T-I-O-N. Imprecation. It's a noun, and an imprecation is a spoken curse. So imagine you're walking down the street and a car cuts in front of you and almost hits you. You might shout something at them, you might curse at them. That would be an imprecation. Or if one child takes another child's favorite toy and runs away with it, that child might scream some curses at the other child. Now, if you think of imprecation as a curse, a way of remembering it might be thinking of something like an evil witch's curse. And if you think of an imp, you might think of an imp as a creature a bit like a goblin and a sort of evil mythological creature, and that might be summoned by a witch or a wizard, an evil wizard. And the sort of person who could summon an imp is also the kind of person who could curse you, a sort of witch's curse. So if you remember an imp like an evil creature, and then you might remember imprecation being a curse, like a witch's curse. Some synonyms of imprecation are, of course, curse, swearing, malediction, damnation, abuse, or perhaps reprobation. Now, on to our final word, and that is politic. Politic. It's an adjective, and politic is used to describe an action, and it means seeming sensible under the circumstances. So, some synonyms to explain this are wise, prudent, sensible, or judicious. So, for an example, you could imagine you're a lawyer and you're in court defending someone, and the judge seems a bit angry and you've got to speak to him, and you notice the judge's hairpiece or wig is slipping a little bit, and it would be politic for you not to mention it, because if you do mention it, it might make the judge a bit more angry at you, which you don't want. So it would be politic to not mention the judge's wig sliding off his head. So a person who is politic is usually sagacious, shrewd, or astute. So someone who makes the wise decision under the circumstances. You may know someone who often makes smart decisions based on their circumstances. They are a wise person, they're a politic person. Now, you may have noticed that this word is extremely similar to another word you know, politics or political. So obviously all these words have a similar root, and the root comes from a Greek word, and that is polis. A polis meant a city in ancient Greece, and then polites, I think it's pronounced polites, meant a citizen. So polis was a city and polites was a citizen. And then, again in Greek, politikos meant relating to citizens or belonging to the city, and it came into French, politique, and politics, and again meaning politics in modern English. So all these words have a common root. So if you think of a politician, the best sort of politician is going to act in a politic way. They're going to act wisely. Those were our words. Now let's review them all quickly. Ford. That means a shallow place in a river or stream, or to cross a river or stream at a shallow place. Commensurate, commensurate. That means corresponding in size or degree, or in proportion. Imprecation, imprecation. That is a spoken curse or an insult. And politic, politic. That means being sensible or judicious under the circumstances. If a person is politic, they're wise, they're sagacious. Now, our test sentences. I'll read the sentences and you tell me which word I'm referring to. We crossed the river where it was shallow, for fear of being washed down the rapids. I decided I wanted to have my own little herd of goats, so when I bought a new house, I made sure it had a field large enough to feed them all. Politicians often make judgments which seem good at the time, but which, years later, seem terribly flawed. Frank's parrot would scream obscenities at any new people who came to the house. As such, Frank would often cover his cage to avoid any embarrassing scenes. So, those were our words for today. Please remember to practice using those words, especially if you can during the day. Think up a time when you could use those. It really will help you to remember them if you can use them naturally, use them in a conversation. So try and make that a habit. Remembering those new words, use them at work, use them at school, use them with your friends or your parents. And if you can't do that, write some example sentences of your own. So go get a pen and paper now if you can, or if you're driving, think of some example sentences where you'd use those words. Because that creative thinking, that's really going to help remember those words and keep them in your brain permanently. Thank you so much for all your feedback and emails. Please continue to email me at sam.fold@gmail.com. I love your emails. I'm making a big effort now to reply to all the emails I didn't reply to. So if you did email me and I didn't get back to you, I will try and get through to you. I appreciate it so much. It's really very nice. So thank you all so much for listening. Take it easy. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.